Flaunting his wealth, royal tantrums, King Charles took the throne and then the spotlight. But not exactly for the best reasons. Though King Charles III's 2023 coronation was a seminal moment in British history, the occasion was not without controversy. The event came amid the United Kingdom's cost of living crisis, in which millions of Britons were unable to heat their homes in the winter months. A record number of people were relying on food banks, and interest rates had skyrocketed. Following the death of Queen Elizabeth II, Charles was reportedly planning a less expensive coronation, in contrast to his mom's 1953 ceremony, which cost close to £1.6 million, or around $56 million in today's money. At the time, an insider told The Mirror that the king was aware of and sensitive to the fact that many Britons were struggling financially. Nevertheless, Charles' coronation was estimated to cost between £50 and £100 million in taxpayer money, according to the BBC News. The expenditure led to criticism from the public. A concerned senior citizen told the outlet, "We're struggling for heating and eating, and they're splashing all this money out." Politician Norman Baker argued in The Guardian that Charles is rich enough to pay for his own coronation, and more than half of Britons polled by YouGov felt that the coronation shouldn't be taxpayer-funded. Anti-monarchy activist Graham Smith told Time magazine, "The coronation is a pointless vanity parade that's costing £250 million for Charles to parade along and have a hat put on his head when we're in the middle of a cost of living crisis." Pens appeared to be the bane of King Charles' existence. When he became king, he immediately suffered a number of stylographic mishaps. During the signing of the accession proclamation in September 2022, Charles passive-aggressively motioned towards an aide to remove a tray of pens, sliding the receptacle to the end of the table. Subsequently, folks accused Charles of being rude to those in less privileged positions than himself. That wasn't the last angry pen outburst we saw from Charles. At a book signing ceremony at Hillsborough Castle in Northern Ireland a couple of days later, he appeared to lose his temper when his pen began leaking. The king was later able to poke fun at his pen gaffes during a speech at Mansion House in 2023, saying, "Our ability to laugh at ourselves is one of our great national characteristics. Just as well, you may say, given some of the vicissitudes I have faced with frustratingly failing fountain pens this past year."
What a legacy.
Soon into his reign, King Charles made the decision to fire up to 100 employees at Clarence House, which serves as Charles and Queen Camilla's London residence. The members of staff were notified of their redundancies during the national period of mourning following the death of Queen Elizabeth. This was due to the king's decision to close down the Clarence House household in accordance with his plans for a slimmed-down monarchy. Though Charles was adhering to his initial promise, the employees were reportedly left feeling shaken amid the sudden layoffs. The decision led to a backlash from the public and commercial services union, which branded the king heartless. Union leader Mark Serwatka told The Guardian, "While some changes across the households were to be expected, as roles across the royal family change, the scale and speed at which this has been announced is callous in the extreme. Least of all because we do not know what staffing the incoming Prince of Wales and his family might need." Similarly, The Telegraph's Eleanor Mills argued that a slimmed-down monarchy should have entailed giving up the vast amounts of real estate that the crown owns, as opposed to laying off employees. As Mills mused, "So, Your Majesty, rather than sacking a few middle management minions, if you really mean it about saving cash, why don't you offload some of the real estate?" According to protocol, the British monarch is supposed to remain politically neutral. Despite this, King Charles has made political statements on several occasions, both before and during his reign as king. For instance, a few months before becoming king, he condemned the Conservative government's policy of sending migrants to Rwanda. Charles has also called for direct action over the climate crisis.
The earth does not belong to us. We belong to the earth.
In February 2023, the king met with Ursula von der Leyen, the president of the European Commission, to discuss trade agreements in Northern Ireland. Afterward, he was widely criticized for seemingly weighing in on the ongoing and ever-divisive Brexit debate. Royal commentator Peter Hunt wrote on X, formerly Twitter, This is a very serious error of judgment by King Charles and his advisors. He's abandoned his unifying role and entered the political fray in a foolish bid to be seen as statesmanlike. Arlene Foster, former leader of the Democratic Unionist Party, also expressed her disapproval on X, questioning why Prime Minister Rishi Sunak would allow the king to get involved in the finalization of the post-Brexit deal. She wrote, "It's crass and will go down very badly in Northern Ireland." Some wondered whether von der Leyen had initiated the meeting, seeing as she is known to be a fan of the British royals. However, Downing Street representatives argued that it's not out of the ordinary for the monarch to meet leaders from across the globe. King Charles is renowned for his commitment to environmental causes.
I've always felt that we're, over-exploiting and damaging nature.
Despite this, he caused a furor following his ascension to the throne for seemingly not practicing what he preaches. In September 2023, he held a meeting on carbon emissions at Dumfries House in Scotland. The king invited 3 government ministers to the gathering with the goal of appointing a new net zero minister. However, Charles made the politicians fly 400 miles to Scotland, paid for by the British public. That month, he caused further outrage when he took a 75-minute private flight to Bordeaux as opposed to hopping on the train. Environmentalist outlet Reporter called out Charles, writing, "2 plane trips for a state visit which will last 3 days. The ecological results of Charles III's trip to France are not rosy. To come to Paris, the British sovereign took the plane. Result, 57.8 kg CO2 equivalent emitted compared to only 4 kg if he had preferred the train." However, French officials countered that train travel would have posed a security risk, Express reported. In the lead-up to King Charles' coronation, there was concern that he was set to be anointed with cat oil. The traditional recipe is extracted from civet cats in a method that animal welfare advocates argue is cruel and painful and may lead to the animals' deaths. In the midst of criticism, the palace confirmed that the king would be anointed with cruelty-free oil instead. But the backlash from animal rights groups did not end there. The royal family also has a long history of hunting. When Charles became king, there was speculation that he may put an end to this centuries-long tradition, but insiders revealed that the monarch had no plans to ban hunting anytime soon. Subsequently, Charles was criticized by the Scottish Green Party for being exempt from certain animal welfare laws, such as those that bar people from hunting with dogs. However, in September 2023, the royals were banned from hunting on the Balmoral estate, thus ending the 175-year-long tradition. Following the coronation backlash, one would assume that King Charles had learned his lesson about flaunting his wealth. Alas, this was not the case. The monarch ended up angering yet more ordinary folks with his grandiose displays amid increasing economic turmoil in the United Kingdom. A week after the coronation, Charles and Queen Camilla posed for a photo shoot with Prince William and Charles' eldest grandson, Prince George. The shoot harkened back to the classic royal portraits of old, with the Windsors decked out in regalia against a lavish palladial backdrop. But some argued that it was insensitive and inharmonious with the values of modern Britain for the king to stage such a grand photo shoot during a cost of living crisis. Speaking to The Express, PR exec Pam Lydon argued that the shoot was in poor taste, saying, "I know there's historic reasons to take these, but the PR part of me thought, that's enough now. Let's just stop and focus on what's really going on in this country, which is we have a serious cost of living crisis." Lydon questioned why the king's PR team would give the photo shoot a go-ahead in the first place, arguing that it was a shameless display of excessive wealth and saying, "It's showing how grand it is. It's, look how rich we are. I mean, nobody dresses like that. It's quite old-fashioned and very unreliable."
God save the king! God save the king!
With the release of Prince Harry's memoir, Spare, in January 2023, the relationship between the prince and his father was at an all-time low. There was initially doubt as to whether Harry would even attend King Charles' coronation in the midst of the fallout. However, he ultimately decided to head to the ceremony without his wife, Meghan Markle. Arguably a reflection of how distant father and son have become, Harry was seated 2 rows behind his brother during the ceremony.
He also did not accompany the royals on the balcony of Buckingham Palace, joining his disgraced uncle Prince Andrew in being relegated to the sidelines.
There was further controversy due to the fact that Harry was asked not to wear his military uniform to the coronation, despite being a veteran. Moreover, Harry did not feature in any of the official coronation photos. The coronation also happened to fall on Harry and Meghan's son's birthday. However, Charles and other senior members of the royal family did not wish Prince Archie a happy birthday on social media or elsewhere publicly, although we don't know if any well wishes were exchanged in private. This raised some eyebrows among royal watchers, as Princess Charlotte's birthday was less than a week earlier and was acknowledged by the royal family on social media. Additionally, Archie's previous birthday was acknowledged by the Clarence House X account.